Hi, Apurva. Hi, everyone. Let's just give us a second as we're getting connected. Apurva, are you ready to begin? Okay, no worries. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our speaker series 2 this year, Breaking into Tech and Engineering Roles, Skills, Projects, and Pathways. We have an exciting person joining us today, Mr. Sumanyu Maingi, the Senior Failure Analysis Engineer at Intuitive. And my name is Nadia, and I'm the uh, Director of the Future Skills Alliance, welcoming you all for our webinar today. All right, let me tell you a little bit about the Future Skills Alliance. Basically, we are a collective impact platform where we bring together. Apurva, can you go to the next slide? Is that possible? We bring together uh, both community members, academic institutions, as well as bringing together corporate funders to work together again to improve digital skilling across the region. And within the Future Skills Alliance, we have two uh, kind of flagship programs. And one of them is a STEM connector, where we look at supporting young women kind of join and thrive in the STEM field. And the other one is looking at it's called Skills to Work, where we think about ways to upskill people who would need a little bit of extra support to join into the most kind of the fastest growing um, the fastest growing kind of industries right now. And in terms of the work that we're doing, kind of stems across both STEM in general, but also careers in data center, as well as careers in data center, as well as careers in the aviation industry. And today we have a very exciting speaker joining us. We have Sumanyu Maingi. He is a failure analysis engineer at Intuitive Surgical, where he performs root cause analysis on failures and solves technical problems through cross-functioning engineering collaboration. I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that. His work focuses on identifying engineering issues and supporting product quality and reliability in the medical devices sector. Prior to joining Intuitive Surgical, he worked across a range of industries, including microscopy at Eurofins Nanolab, consumer electronics at Apple, and fitness technology at Tonal. His diverse experience across engineering and technology sectors provides valuable insight into the technical and professional skills needed to navigate careers in tech and engineering. So welcome, Subhanyus, for to our session today, and very excited to have you share with our students a little bit about how can we best break into tech, but also navigate as we're kind of building our careers. So please.
Thank you. Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Uh,
Are we starting? Are we sharing the screen right now? Okay,
yes, please.
getting started.
You can share your screen, and we
All
have
right.
perfect.
Okay, everybody give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen okay. And you can
Yes.
hear me okay. I
Yep.
know I can't see anybody, but I can see you, Nadia. I
Yep.
guess. Yes. All right. Thank you everybody for joining and thank you for having me. So the title for today's slide deck is going to be Breaking into Tech and Engineering, and we will talk about internships to industry and everything in between. If you're in college, if you're in the early stages of your career, I'm hoping you can get a little something out of it today. I'm basically going to be sharing from my own experiences. I've been working in tech for about 9 years after undergrad and masters in the US, and I feel that my career has seen a lot of ups and downs so far. And with that came a lot of valuable knowledge that I gained that I am here to share with you guys. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, little bit about me. I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from IIT in India. There's a new IIT that came up when I was graduating, and then I did my master's in materials engineering from University of Southern California in Los Angeles, and then currently working at Intuitive Surgical as a senior FA engineer. We call it FA, short for failure analysis, where I'm basically working on advanced energy surgical instruments. Related to cautery, vessel sealing, etc. And what failure analysis engineers basically do, as the name suggests, is we analyze failures. So whenever something fails from the field and during internal testing or whatnot, it comes back to me, and then I figure out what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what can we do so it doesn't go wrong, right? So that's basically, in a nutshell, what I do. And as Nadia mentioned, I came from a diverse range of industries before. So microscopy at Nanolab Technologies, Apple. I'm pretty sure you might have heard of this company. And I was in the materials engineering team. And then this little startup called Tonal, where there's basically a wall-mounted piece of machinery, and then you perform weightlifting on it. I know it sounds super exciting. If you're not sure what this entails, just check it out on YouTube. There's plenty of cool videos on there. Aside from engineering, I like to dance and teach Bhangra, which is a form of folk dance from North India. I love to travel, hike, cook, and work out, all while trying to spend quality time with my family, which includes an 11-month-old baby. All right, we're gonna jump right into my journey. So this is what students or even people in the early stages of the career have a fairy tale idea of how their career is going to look like versus how sometimes, in some cases or in most cases, career actually ends up looking like, right? So these two pictures I found, I'm an active LinkedIn user, by the way. I found these on LinkedIn and I figured that this will be a great um, set of images to use and for the sake of this presentation. So I included that here, as you can see: expectations, school, college, internship, job, manager, executive, retire happily ever after, right? And I've seen people like that. Don't get me wrong, there are people like that, which is a combination of hard work, luck, being at the right place at the right time, a lot of different factors. But most people can relate more to the right hand side image, right? School, exam prep, college, and then you pivot into something, and then everything is going well, and the company decides to lay people off, and they're like, oh, what was I doing all my life? And then you reevaluate, you just completely pivot, you switch gears, you try to learn a new skill, and then you basically keep growing your skill set, and that's when that promotion happens that you'll be waiting for, that recognition happens, and then you reach to that executive level, and the happily ever after comes after a little bit of struggle, right? So that's what happened to me when I came to this country. I was like, okay, I'm in a good school. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in USC. I have IIT, which people struggle to get into. So I was like, I have USC and IIT on my resume. I can get any internship I want. Reality. I went to so many career fairs, both on campus, off campus. I tried basically pulling every single string that I could. I contacted my cousin who was at Apple, so many other people who were at different tech companies. I did not even manage to get a single interview, let alone find an internship. Did that hurt me? Sure. I did not have an industry experience that would have later helped me find a good first job, but it teaches you something, right? And we will cover what rejections entail a little bit later, but expectations versus reality. I used to think all I need is an interview and I will get the job. My cousin got into Apple. How hard could it be, right? I can get it too. I found a first job after so many rejections, and it definitely was not Apple. And then I thought, okay, I just need to find one job, get my foot in the door, and then it's all smooth sailing from there. That's the left side picture is what I was expecting. And then, well, I was fired from my first job. There were some issues, but I'm not going to go into the details of that. Fired from the first job, contractor for the next, and then laid off from the third until I found Intuitive, which is where I am and which is where I have been for the past 3+ years. So you never know where life is going to take you, where your career is going to take you. You can plan for sure, yes, maybe 20, 30, 40% of it, but there are things that you just have to go with the flow, right? So, and I'll stop being vague and then get into more specifics. So, things that really matter, right? There's a lot of things. Okay, that cousin or that friend, family friend who graduated from, I don't know, a really good school told you, okay, if you don't have a perfect 10 GPA or 9 plus GPA, then there's no point. There is some truth to that. So then I'm going to speak to the first quadrant here. Skills are more important than GPA, at least Well, that's true. That's mostly true after your first job. To get that first job, sometimes GPA can be important. I'm not going to lie. It does not mean that, okay, I'm going to focus on my skills and I don't care if I'm flunking half of my courses, right? So definitely keep in mind that some companies, like I remember from my IIT days, Amazon, for instance, came on campus for software engineers. They were like, give us everybody who has 8 plus GPA. So I know this guy who was really smart, really good coder, excellent coding skills, and he's been at Zomato ever since. But back separate story. But he could not qualify for Amazon interview because his GPA was not 8 and above, right? So it's things like that. GPA, having a good GPA opens a little bit more doors for you in the beginning when you're just graduating, especially once you enter industry and then you have a definitive skill set and then you're working, people are going to talk about you in terms of the quality of your work and not what your GPA was in college. So yes, if you're in college or just graduating, yes, GPA matters, and in that it helps you get noticed a little bit more, because when you're in college, chances are you don't have a lot of hands-on industry experience. So your GPA basically tells potential employers that, okay, yeah, you are somebody who has strong fundamentals, right? And who can perform well in an academic setting. So that gives employers some information about you and they'll be interested in knowing more about you. So getting an initial head start, important. Once you get past that, your skills are what's going to set you apart. And what kind of skills? We shall also cover that in one of the next slides. Projects, next quadrant, projects are more important than certificates, meaning what you did, what you actually achieved in, let's say, a course project in your sophomore year, third year, or whatever, right? What was the outcome of that project? What you did, what was the problem statement? Who did you work with? What was your process like? What kind of results were you targeting? What you ended up achieving? What did you learn out of that? Versus doing an online course and getting a certificate, right? Two different things. Employer, if you get a certificate, sure, that shows some initiative that you're spending time trying to learn something, but you can't really quantify that. Projects, on the other hand, they will help you quantify your results, right? So that's what employers are looking for, right? Next up is communication. When I say communication equals multiplier, meaning you can be the most genius person in the room, but if you don't know how to communicate your thoughts and ideas well, it's not going to go through to the other person. It's not going to go through to the person who is in the decision making seat, right? So clear communication is super important, and we will cover communication as well in one of the next slides. This is just laying the groundwork here for what's going to come next, okay? And then curiosity is more important than knowing everything. So when I say this, I mean, this entails asking a lot of questions and being genuinely curious. It's almost impossible for anybody to know everything, right? And employers are not even expecting that. What they want to know is how you approach not knowing something, how you get there, what's your attitude like? Because I once heard from this dance team captain that once led the team that I was on, is that I would rather have a B plus dancer with a A plus attitude rather than have a A plus dancer with a B plus attitude. See what the difference is, right? Always, and I'm going to quote Steve Jobs here, stay hungry, stay foolish. Never get complacent, never think that you know everybody, and there's always room for improvement. Even if you're the subject matter expert for something, like I've been in this job for 3 years, I think I'm the subject matter expert for my line of instruments that I work on, but I'm far from it. There's still every single day I talk to my cross-functional team members, different engineers, and I still learn new things about the instruments that I literally work with 5 days a week, right? So curiosity goes a long way when you're trying to get into industry. All right. The real deal. What will get you hired? So some companies, a lot of companies, especially now I don't want to speak specifically, I don't want to name companies, but there's a lot of companies from what I've heard from my friends being in different areas of tech. Some companies are okay with you just being a technical person because all they want is somebody who can sit in front of the computer and write good quality code. And that's okay. There's no harm in that. But to have a complete armor, right? So it's better to have a combination of these two. So technical skills and soft skills. So technical skills, first comes core engineering fundamentals. Sure, software engineer folks, I know some terminology because my wife is a software engineer and my best friend is a software engineer. So let's see, system design, data, data structures, things like that. Artificial intelligence, of course, machine learning, right? So whatever your core engineering fundamentals are, that is definitely going to be the first step, the first thing that they're going to check for, the employers are going to check for in an interview, right? They're going to throw a technical problem at you and see what you know and then how you solve it, right? Problem solving, debugging skills. It's kind of like the same under the same bracket, right? They want to see how you approach problems. What's your idea? What's your thought process like to solve problems? And then basic data skills, because in this day and age, everybody works with data. So they want to, it's basic, it's bare minimum expectations for anyone, for all candidates to know a certain level of data analysis skills, data manipulation skills, or just to basically know a few tools that help you analyze data, how to pull data, how to analyze it, and basically how to make conclusions out of it. And then just as important are the soft skills. So like I was saying, communication, if you are a really smart person, but you don't know how to communicate, your ideas are never going to get through. So, and communication includes both verbal and written, right? So you need to be able to explain things in a way that your idea gets through, right? And that's what, and that's something I still struggle with to this day. And I consider myself a good communicator, but like I said, there's always room for improvement, right? So this is something you can practice on your own, like maybe write emails to your friend or something as practice and have them evaluate, right? And this is something you can actually take a lot of online courses for, how to get better at communicating, talking in front of an audience, for instance. That'll give you confidence in how to basically not blabber and make sure your idea goes through. And well, I don't want to say minimum possible words, but also not too many words, right? Because too many words also tend to confuse people. And then people tend to think, okay, what's the point again, right? So communication is paramount. And then initiative and ownership. Companies or employers want to see how much of an initiator and owner you are. Because, well, when you're at a job, it's very easy to get carried away and say, this is not my job. This is my job description. I'm not going to do anything out of it. Versus you take ownership. Don't think of it as you're only working for the team. Think of it as a bigger picture, and that you're the owner, you're one of the owners of the company, and that's the initiative they want to see. Which I know for a student who's just interviewing for their first job, it may be hard to show in an interview. But for this one, initiative and ownership, you don't need to obviously show it for an industrial setting. You can always show it for like a class project or a lab project that you lead. Let's say you were one of the three people in a project, and you can always tell them that you took initiative to do something. You took initiative to bring the people together. You took ownership of the project, and then you went above and beyond out of your way to get something done. That's what they love to hear, right? And that also ties into what goes on to your resume, which we will also touch upon in just a little bit. And then teamwork and leadership. They want to see how you operate, how you work with other people. Because let's face it, chances are whenever you go into industry, you're never going to be, you're almost never going to be working alone. There will, at some point, somebody or the other who you're going to be working with, right? And if you're not the kind of person who's approachable, or people can talk to you comfortably and lean on you, rely on you, that's going to be a red flag later. So that's also a positive if you can demonstrate teamwork and leadership through your previous work or current work, whatever project you're in. And I just included a TLDR in here. In case you're not familiar, TLDR means too long, didn't read, right? So it's like a summary. If you can solve and explain, then you stand out. Okay. All right. Building a strong portfolio. So I'm going to go to the TLDR first in this case. Focus on impact, not just effort. And what I mean by that is a lot of people say, okay, yeah, I interned at Amazon, for instance. I interned at Microsoft. That's great. It's a good brand value to add to your resume, but they want to know what you did there. If, as an intern, all you did was schedule help with scheduling or get your boss coffee or something. They don't care about that, right? But if you can tell that, okay, I worked on so and so project that helped the company lower costs or increase revenue, or I was a part of the project that in the bigger picture helped the company lower costs or increase revenue, things like that. If you can quantify your impact, especially in terms of numbers, that's what they want to see. Projects, and that's why I put the projects on top. Hands-on will almost always going to be more important and carry more weightage than theory. The reason I say that, well, that's from personal experience. When I was graduating from USC, I had some of the best courses the school had to offer from some of the best professors that the school had, right? But I talked to some industry professionals and they're like, that's great, but you don't have any industry experience. You don't have any hands-on experience. And I said, I'm really interested in working on metals and alloys. It's just USC does not allow master students to do a lot of hands-on work because limited resources and they're all reserved for PhD students because USC has a lot of PhD students. Employers didn't care. They were like, okay, you must be theoretically strong, but you lack hands-on experience. So I'm going to stress this again. If you can get hands-on experience, there's no equal to that. Having theoretical knowledge is great, and chances are in a class of 40 students, more than 35 will have theoretical knowledge that is taught from what is taught in class. But hands-on is something you're probably going to have to go a little bit out of your way for. And well, if you're a software engineering student, it's a little bit easier for you because, well, you don't really need a lab or something to get that hands-on experience. You just have your laptop, right? Build an app, build a website, build a tool. There's tons of things you can do with AI these days. Do something, create something so you can have something to talk about in an interview versus, oh yeah, I took these 7 courses in college. And employers will be like, okay, yeah, what else is new? Everybody does these 7 courses, right? So that's going to help you stand out. Internships are going to give you a taste of real world. And that's important. Again, it's going to help you stand out from somebody who did not do an internship because internship is kind of like doing a job, but for a trial period or for a short period. And internships are, and I know a lot of people who did internships at certain companies, and now 15 years later, they're still at that company, right? Because internships will tell the employers, okay, yeah, this person has grit. They have what it takes to actually be an asset to the company. And that's where you really get to prove to those people in industry that you're really cut out for it, right? So if you can try to get an internship and how to get an internship, again, this will be coming to one of my favorite slides, which is networking, right? We will go over that as well, but internships that's where it's important. Certifications, again, I know before I said projects are more important than certifications. True. It does not mean that certifications are not important, especially for certain jobs. Like I remember again, there were some jobs, I think, let's say in medical device industry or specific industries may require you to have some sort of certification without which they legally cannot have somebody perform a certain job. I really don't have good examples because I honestly never took a professional certification course or anything, but certifications might be important in those aspects, and that's going to vary depending upon the area or the major you're in. But still, certifications is something to look into if that's the kind of role or industry you want to venture into. All right, I've been speaking for a few seconds. So I'm just going to grab a water real quick. All right, so you got options. STEM majors, and this list is not exhaustive, right? There's so many different options you can go into. There's design, there's academia, research and development. And research and development does not have to be just academia. You can do research and development in companies as well. Like I know people who are in NVIDIA research, Microsoft research, Google research, and whatnot, right? Manufacturing, quality engineering, and of course our favorite, software and data, right? And these are not job titles per se. Design engineers, R&D engineer, everything. There can be job titles. There are job titles with these keywords, but then I think we're going to go over that at the very end as well, like what kind of job titles are not super common or not super popular or that people are not super familiar with that STEM majors can go into, but we will touch on that as well. But the TLDR for this one is you don't need to get it perfect. You can always pivot. Your first job does not have to be your dream job. Mine wasn't. And honestly, I still don't know what my dream job is, but the one that I have right now, it feels pretty close to a dream job. If you ask me right now to define my dream job, I'm going to have to take a few minutes to do that because your dreams can also change, right? So, yeah, don't, I would advise you, whoever's listening, don't be very fixated in your mind that, okay, this company and this title is what I'm going for, and then that's it. Nothing else and no other company can satisfy me. Because if we do that, we're actually kind of narrowing down, right, our energy, so to speak, and we will be very channeled, which can be a good and a bad thing, right? But for your first job, I'd advise you need to get it perfect. Things happen, go with the flow, and then, things will happen when they happen. How you stand out. So, what companies are looking for, again, problem solving abilities, turning confusion into clarity, how you can explain problems in a way that, first of all, they're easy to understand. So, the first thing you need to do is, first of all, define the problem. Because if you can't define what the problem is, how will you know how to even approach it, right? And then they want to see how you approach it, right? What's your thought process? What's your thinking like? And can you address ambiguity? Can you address confusion? And then what kind of solutions can you propose? And I know all of this may sound very vague, well, because in an interview, they're going to give you a specific problem. So, and there's going to be so many tools available to you online that will advise you to approach it with the STAR methodology or something: situation, task, action, result, or something. They'll give you a situation, and then they'll ask you, or they'll just give you a problem, and then you will have to approach the answers in a STAR format. You'll tell them what the situation was, what the task that you did was, what the action was, and then the result of it, right? So things like that. That's what they're looking for. And then fast learner mindset, learning new skills fast. And this is something that I struggled with to convince the companies as well, that they're like, this job description has 5 skills that we need. You only have 2. And I told them that, yes, I need this job to kind of learn those 3 skills because I've done that in my previous job. I went in knowing only 1 out of 5 skills, and I picked everything up because I had the right combination of resources, mentors, to kind of train me on it. And then I spent more time on it and I got better at it. And they were like, sometimes the companies really just want people coming in knowing everything, and that's, if that happens, then that's just tough luck. But you need to show them that you have a fast learner mindset. How can you demonstrate that? From your projects. If you're a student, there's nothing better than your projects to actually demonstrate that okay, when you came in you had no idea, and then you read up on it, you ask your seniors, you ask your mentors, you ask your professors, and then that's what helped you grow your skill set, and you ended up learning something um, really fast and actually do something productive with it. And then clear communication, of course, explaining complex things simply. A lot of times it happens that companies ask one thing and then the candidate kind of goes around and round and round without really touching on the actual problem. So clear communication is another thing, and it's actually one of the most important things in the whole interview process. And then again, average skills plus good communication is better than being a silent genius. So you need your ideas to go through, and you need to know how to communicate. Practical tips, getting the job. This is one of my favorite slides because I can relate to pretty much all of it. Everything has happened to me, layoffs and whatnot, right? So starting with your resume, use numbers and impact. Unless you're a PhD holder, or PhD holder plus a lot of uh, a lot of experience, and you have a lot of citations and research publication and everything to list down, chances are a one-page resume will just be fine for you, because for the sake of brevity, it's easy to scan. And I know there are bots these days that scan the resume and everything, but still, for the sake of shortness and brevity, keep it concise. And whenever possible, use numbers and impact. And this ties back to my internship point where you tell about your impact in terms of numbers. What you did, what was the impact of on it, impact of it, and then if you can tie it back to numbers, how many dollars saved, how much lead time was reduced during manufacturing operations or something. If you can do that, because that's eye catchy in a pool, in a sea of words, if employers see a number, that's where your eyes are going to go. So most practical tip for resumes: Use numbers and impact, and keep it simple. Less is more. You don't have to write about every single thing you did in a project. Just focus on the two or three most important bullets that are critical for somebody to know what you did, and that's it. When when the interview happens, you can always touch more on it as they need to. But for now, for starters, just keep it simple. For applications, apply broadly and don't wait for a perfect fit. Meaning, let's say you're a software engineer, software engineering major, don't just apply for software engineering roles. Apply for data scientist. Apply for infrastructure engineer, for instance. I'm just throwing random words because I hear these words from my wife and from my friends who apply to jobs in this area. If you're a mechanical engineer, don't just apply to mechanical engineer roles. Apply for failure analysis engineer. Apply for reliability engineer, quality engineer, supplier engineer. Because chances are there's no, well, I hear that there are majors now on quality engineering and things like that, but a lot of companies don't really care what your bachelor's degree is in. So don't think if you're a mechanical engineering major, you can only apply to mechanical design engineer type roles. Just apply broadly. Of course, yeah, if you're a mechanical engineering major, don't apply to finance roles or something, right? But still stay within the STEM family, right? And then for interviews, think out loud and structured answers. What they ask, and I think this is where that STAR approach will come in handy, lay it out for them, right? So they also sometimes like you can tell from the interviewer's face that, okay, they are kind of getting confused by what you are saying because you're confused, right? So give them your answers in a structured form, approach it with the STAR methodology, situation, task, action, result, and then think out loud because you tell them, can I think about it for a second? And they're like, sure, yeah. And then you're sitting like this. And then you keep sitting like this. And they're looking at your face, and then you're looking in the corner. That's not going to help anybody, right? Let alone you. So you have to tell them, what are you thinking about? How are you approaching the problem? Right. So that's a very valuable tip that I also got from one of my mentors. And after that, I started doing that in every interview. And sometimes when you're thinking out loud, they actually ask you questions about that. And sometimes they actually help you because believe it or not, they are there to help you get the job, right? They're working for you. You just have to let them. Yeah. And the picture that I included on the right hand side is just, again, something I came across on LinkedIn. The guy says he had a new job within days when he first got laid off. And then 25 years later, it took 4 months from him. The market changed. He didn't change, the market changed. So sometimes outcomes have nothing to do with you. That's the hardest career lesson to accept. That happened to me too. When I got fired from my first job, it took me 6 months because that happened at the beginning of COVID. It took me 6 months to find the next job at Apple, a contractor, right? Because the market was down and no company was hiring. The companies that were hiring, they were very specific that, okay, we only want this skill set, nothing more, nothing less. And no, we found somebody more suitable. And that hurts, right? But remember, rejections, they're not personal. So it's hard to take rejections not personally because, well, the rejection email almost always starts with your name. Hey, Sumanyu, we regret to inform you that you get the idea, right? But remember that it's part of the process. It's not a verdict. It's not a verdict on you. It's not a judgment on you. You cannot appreciate success unless you have experienced failures, which is interesting because I'm a failure analysis engineer, right? So you have to experience those failures to actually appreciate success. And then often it's about being in the right place at the right time. When I was interviewing for Intuitive, I had just gotten laid off. I thought my manager told me, the now manager, that we're looking for somebody with a medical device background. I did not have a medical device background. No, I didn't study biomedical. I guess what worked for me in that situation was probably because the people I was up against also did not have a background like that, and then just I just was grateful enough to make it all the way to the through the interview process, and they just liked me the most from a pool of students, from a pool of candidates who, like, none of them had that background that they were looking for. So again, it depends on what's in your control. That's what you can do, your technical skills, your soft skills, and how much hard work you can put in. But then there are factors that are out of your control, and you just let universe work for you, right? You can do everything right and still lose. That's my third point, and that's not career failure. That's just statistics, right? So I've seen very few people who were at their first job at a great FANG company, and then they've been there ever since. So that's great for them, right? But the real lessons that come from rejections and rejections and rejections upon rejections, it teaches you a lot of resilience, right? And me personally, I can share that experience with other people who still contact me on LinkedIn to help with their job search. And I would say this, all of that has kind of given me the strength and resilience to basically get through anything and everything that life throws at you. So that's what I've realized over time. And then don't do it alone. You're not in it alone. So networking and mentorship is super important. Reach out to people, ask specific questions about their work. Let's say you find a job at, I don't know, for example, NVIDIA, right? You found a job that says failure analysis engineer at NVIDIA, right? Sure, you apply, but don't apply just yet. Maybe you find a failure analysis engineer at NVIDIA who currently works there. Ask in the personal note, hey, this is Sumanyu. I want to apply for a failure analysis engineer position. It would be great to connect with you and learn more about this job. And if people are nice, right, they will accept your invite, even though you're a stranger, but you told them what's your intention to connect with them. And then if they're nice, they will walk you through. They can be a good mentor for you. You'll get some idea. And then you go ahead, ask for a referral, and then you apply through their referral. Because sometimes referrals do help you get ahead in line and that you can get that first interview. After the first interview, it's everybody is treated equally, but that first referral can actually help you get your foot in the door, right? So do some groundwork, do something extra, because most people I know, they just go to LinkedIn Jobs or Google something, go to the application, click apply, upload their resume. That's it, they're done. Very few people actually go above and beyond to contact people separately, and that's what's going to make you stand out. I did this for my job at Apple and Intuitive as well. When I was at Apple, I was a contractor. I was looking for my full-time job. I contacted my now manager at Intuitive in 2021, and he said that I don't have anything for you right now, but I'll keep you in mind. And when that time came 2 years later, he remembered me. He was like, "Hey, I know you. You're the LinkedIn guy, right?" So don't think that whatever networking or whatever network I'm expanding right now is going to help you right now. It might help you 3 years later. You just never know, right? So yeah, you can reach out to alumni, mentors, professors, family, and friends, right? So there's so many people out there who you can get guidance from or help from to help you with your job process. So, like I said, conversations is more important than cold applications, and you have nothing to lose. Worst case, you'll be remembered as the guy who's desperate for a job. Big deal, right? To get the help you need to ask for it. Asking for help is not weakness. It's actually self-awareness, and it takes a lot of courage to ask for help. So ask for help. I think we're at the second last slide. We're going to talk a little bit about AI because is it even an engineering or STEM discussion if we don't talk about AI, right? So I'm going to go to the TLDR first. You don't need to build AI, but you should know how to use it. Meaning, like, if you're not a software engineer or if coding is not your forte, don't be discouraged. Like, you don't need to build AI to actually use it to your advantage, but know how to use it, like I did to help me create the slide deck. Copilot is great. Highly recommend. Does not mean that Copilot gave me a slide deck and I just copied and pasted it. I actually used my own brain as well, some real intelligence as well. But there are tools that you can leverage to help you with your job process. So ChatGPT, Copilot, they're great for resume building, refining, learning, etc. Perplexity, I haven't used it myself, but I've heard it's great for research. There's so many AI mock interview tools that you can leverage for interview prep and practice, and basic coding. Basic coding never hurt anybody. I learned some coding during the 6 months of unemployment between my first and second job. I learned some Python and SQL, and I have forgotten most of it now. But learning that gave me a lot of confidence, right? It's just when you learn something new, it's something exciting about it, right? That you can learn something new at any stage in your life, and coding in this day and age, it's a great skill to have. So yes, just a little something to keep in mind from an AI perspective. All right, wrapping things up, that's mostly it. Key takeaways will be build real skills through projects, quantify your impact wherever possible, focus on problem solving, clearly communicate, apply even if you think you're not ready, because a lot of times the job description will say 5 years of experience required, but I think you can get in with 3 years, right? Use AI to learn faster. Last point, your career won't be linear, and that's okay. Yeah, you'll be better off for it. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing now so we can go into Q&A.
Thanks so much, Manu, for that insightful and inspiring sharing. As I was listening to you, one thing that really resonated was this idea of thinking out loud, right? I think, it's something that oftentimes we're a little bit kind of shy to
Hmm.
share. It's
Yeah,
our inner monologue, right? But
yeah,
really, if you really think about it, the nature of the best workplaces often require you to build on other people's ideas. So it's really something quite exciting or something really useful to share with a potential employer because that will really show you the fit of you working in that organization. So thank you so much for
yeah,
sharing and
yeah, of
being
course.
so kind of open with your own journey and also those around you. Um, all right. Be, for those of you who are on the chat, please feel free to drop a chat in with any questions. But maybe I have one of for myself before we start with that. Can you just walk us through your day? Like what do you do as a when you say medical devices? Share more, please, if you can.
Yes, yes. Every day is different. It's a very exciting job. So I work on a specific line of instruments. It's called advanced energy instruments. They are used for cauterizing, sealing the vessels inside the patient's body, right? Used in a variety of different procedures. So what I do, my a part of my job is to analyze instruments that come back from the field where the customers or the surgeons or hospitals come across failures in them, meaning the instrument. If it's a surgical instrument, there's jaws and there's a knife and there's electricity and everything. So let's say they complain about electricity not working. It's a failure. It comes back to me. I analyze it. I do some testing. I try to figure out why did the customer experience this failure. I get to the root cause of it, sometimes by myself, sometimes with cross-functional team members' help. And then I determine the root cause and then I figure out the next steps. Why the customer experience, if it's something because of the customer did, we want to make sure it doesn't happen again. So we want to let the customers know, hey,
Same.
this is how you can avoid this failure. If it's
Yeah.
something intuitive did or because of intuitive doing manufacturing process or design process, I will communicate that with my cross-functional team members so we can improve the product. So things like that. So in a nutshell, look at the failed products, identify areas of improvement, communicate them back to the other stakeholders, and then work on product improvement. And part of my job is also a lot of data analysis, right? Because this is just one example that I gave you. I look through hundreds upon hundreds of returned instruments and then see what kind of patterns we're seeing. What kind of
Mm.
failures we are seeing in the field the most and why we are seeing them, and whatever needs escalation, we escalate, and basically things like that. So it's a
Well,
lot of product improvement type work.
thank you. That's really, really interesting. And maybe I have a follow-up question. Maybe some people
Yeah,
are interested too. Like, so is this a like when you say investigate them, do you investigate the physical instrument
physical instrument, physical
or like
instrument. Yes.
oh, that's really, really, really interesting.
It's a very cool surgical instrument that is used for minimal invasive surgery. That's what Intuitive basically enables,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, I'm in the lab a lot, taking things apart, looking at them under the microscope and figuring out what happened.
Yeah, and thanks so much for sharing. And I think one of the things perhaps that comes to mind is that maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that there are not that many of these jobs available, right? So there are not that many people who are really specifically, like you said, has this biomedical line of engineering, and that's why participant young people who have a auxiliary skill or mechanical engineering they can consider to
Yeah.
kind of open the field up. Yeah, thanks so much. All right, we've
Yeah.
got a couple of questions here. This comes from the chat. What are some common gaps that you see between what students learn in university and what companies expect in industry?
That's a good question. I can speak to it in terms of my own major.
Yep.
And I think I touched on it a little bit in my slide deck as well. I think the biggest gap would be the theoretical versus the hands-on part. Not everybody gets the hands-on experience in college or in grad school that they would want or that the industries would be looking for when they get into the industry. So I think that's a gap that I see that especially if somebody wants to experience that, if somebody wants to let's say get an experience of a certain materials characterization technique or working with a certain metals and alloys that they think that they can get some hands-on experience on to be better prepared for industry. That's something I have seen personally, and I'm not sure what's a good solution for that because then universities have limited resources. And if
Mm-hmm.
a professor says, I have seven PhD students under me, but if my master's students also ask me they want to do something hands-on, it's just impossible bandwidth-wise
Right.
because they want to invest in people or students who are gonna stay there for a long time versus somebody who's doing a master's degree who's gonna leave in about a
I
year and
see.
a half or 2 years. So I would say that's the biggest gap that I personally experienced.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, kind of following on that, for the resources of the universities, for example, I can understand that they're very constrained. But sometimes the student themselves or the interview candidate themselves can leverage on some resources that they have, right? Like in terms of going to the library, reading up on something a little bit more, at least showing some level of, like a kind of like a little bit of commitment to kind of
Hmm.
for that particular role, right? Versus going
True,
into it saying, well, I don't know anything about this field, but
true,
and I haven't done any research before that. So thanks.
right. Yeah, theoretical research for sure.
Hmm.
That definitely helps as
Yeah,
well. But yes, if
yeah,
somebody can get an industry through their
yeah.
contacts or whatever, that'll be golden. So that you don't have to rely on the university's resources for that.
Understood. What are some engineering roles that student may not know of, but should explore? Do- I mean, any that you can.
Yeah. So from what I've seen in the field,
Hmm.
reliability engineer, it's a great field. So reliability engineer, I know people might not even know what reliability engineer entails. It's basically as a reliability engineer, you work on making things reliable, meaning you work on products. When they go out in the field, they come back, the failures come back. How do you basically use that information to again make that product better? How do you make sure, let's say, an iPhone?
Yeah.
Right? There's so many jobs at Apple about iPhone reliability engineers. You want to make sure the iPhone is reliable. You drop it from a height, it doesn't break, it doesn't miss function or anything. You spill water, you spill some soda or something on it, and it still works fine. So I'm just giving an example.
Mm.
So jobs like that, and we don't hear about jobs like that in colleges because there's no engineering majors or there's no STEM majors
Understood.
that actually teach you reliability engineering, things like that. So there's so many job titles per se that are available for STEM majors that are not typically taught about in college. So reliability engineer is one, failure analysis engineer, quality engineer, supplier engineer, manufacturing engineer, yes, to some extent because there's manufacturing engineer, engineering major as well. And then there's something very interesting called human factors. Look it up. If somebody hasn't heard it before, look it up on Google. Human factors engineering. It's a niche. It's a very niche field. So there's a variety of majors that don't fall under your typical software, electrical, mechanical, civil, math type
Mm.
majors.
Okay,
Um,
so
I I
yeah.
have some questions in the chat as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
And maybe just to respond to that. So, what I'm hearing also is that if you're looking for a role, don't only search for the title of that role, right? But
Mhm.
rather go and look at the organization and search for whatever's available there. Do a little
Yeah,
bit of deep dive to see whether or not the work that you've done, the experience that you have, is closely adjacent enough that you could pivot into that. Yes, I
correct.
see a couple directly in the chat from Mohammed. Any
Yeah.
advice on figuring out what sorts of projects would be impactful? And how do I find stakeholders willing to use the project, willing to use my project?
That's a great question. I'm going to start with the first part of that. So, advice for
Mhm.
figuring out what sort of projects would be impactful. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So I think it really depends on your major. So I can again speak from a mechanical engineering standpoint because that's what my major was in college. So for mechanical engineers, you are kind of looked at as somebody who can build things, who can design things, and who can build things and solve a problem. So in I believe it was third or fourth year, there was a group of us, and we were tasked with building a stove or something that would consume less energy than a typical stove and have less emissions than a conventional stove. I don't remember the details of it in too much, but I'm just giving an example. So things like that, if you can build something, if you can create something from scratch, if you can solve a problem, if you can find a way to make something better, right? And by making something better doesn't necessarily have to be cost reduction or something. It can be better for the environment, better for better from a time investment point of view, things like that. So that's how I would approach what kind of project would be the most impactful. If you know, again, speaking from a mechanical engineering standpoint, but yeah,
Mhm.
that can vary major to major. And then how do I find stakeholders willing to use my project? I'm not sure I fully understand this question. Like use the project where sometimes your project doesn't necessarily have to be used. Sometimes you just use that project for a course or something, and if there
Mm,
is a real need for it, because I know there were students in my batch in undergrad who ended up submitting a patent for something they
mm,
created because something like that was not created before. So things like that. And how do you find stakeholders? I think in college, at least your professors typically would have some sort of connections, industry connections or something. Or if your professors don't, I would say pull all the strings that you can, leverage your network and see if that's something they are interested in and then go from there. I know it's very open-ended, but that's how I would
yeah.
go. And then I see approaching a recruiter in a career booth as well. That's a great point. First of all, well, you need to be able to get to the recruiter. A lot of times I know students spend a lot of time in lines at career booth and they by the time they reach there, they're like, okay, no, we're closed, we're not talking to any more applicants. So how do you approach a recruiter? You just because recruiters are going to meet so many people at a career fair or a career booth, they're not going to remember you. So for them to remember you, for you to stand out, you just you know how you prepare an elevator pitch or something? Like if you run into the CEO of your company in an elevator, how do you talk to them for 30 seconds? Have something like that ready, right?
Hmm.
Don't just say, I'm taking this, and this courses. Tell them why you're interested in their company,
Yeah.
specific. Let's say I want to apply to Apple. Tell them why Apple. Something real convincing. Apple has been building impactful projects for so many years. I'm a Steve Jobs fan, whatnot. Like something that they will remember, something
Mhm.
that makes you stand out, something that will make you memorable. And basically, because you only have a few seconds to talk to a recruiter, everybody's going to give out resumes to recruiters.
Yeah.
They're going to have something to remember you by.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point because in a sea of people saying why choose me, you've kind of flipped it and says like why I've chosen Apple, right? So
Yeah.
or any other organization that you're planning to work for. So thank
Yeah.
you so much. And we're soon running out of time. So if you have any last reflections or last sharings, I can see we don't have any more questions in the chat box. So do you have any if not, yeah, but please, any final.
Uh, no, I think we covered a decent amount of stuff that I wanted to cover, and it was actually as I was working on the slide deck, it actually made me reflect on my past 9 years and actually my college and grad school as well, and how all the rejections and the disappointments have actually taught me a lot over the years, and I probably would not have it any other way. Right? Life would have been a lot technically quote unquote easier if I should say got into Apple 9 years ago and I still probably would be staying there. But I don't know, there would have been a lot less spice in life, right? So, yeah, take whatever life throws at you. It's going to be a curveball and you'll have fun along the way. Just have fun along the way. I guess that's the whole point.
All right.
And yeah, if you'd like, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to connect
Thank
and
you.
help in your career journeys as needed.
Thank you. And I think you kind of talked a little bit about that, like being brave enough to connect with someone on LinkedIn, right? And one thing I've
Yes.
learned in my own career is that most people, when they say like I'm willing to ping me if you need me on on LinkedIn, right? They really do mean it, right? Like it is really something that, and also what do you have to lose, right? You just send a message. If they're too
Yeah.
busy to respond, well, there's nothing much you can do about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for all our participants today and those who are going to be watching the recording later, thank you so much for joining us. And please join me in sharing our greatest appreciation to Sumanyu for sharing a little bit of his journey.
Thank you.
For in order to download your certificate, and please do share a little bit about your own reflections from this session. Please follow the QR code. There are a few questions followed by you'll immediately get a PDF of your certificate to your email mailbox. So thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you at the next speaker series in a month or two. All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Manu.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome. Bye.
We'll keep these this slide up for a couple of minutes, but if you've already got the link, happy for you to then. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you.